Welcome to the Coins channel. And let's start with this: what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine pulling out a coin so ordinary you wouldn't think twice about spending it at a vending machine, only to realize later that collectors would practically go to war over it. That's exactly the story of the 1970 for quarter dollar, a coin that most people overlook every single day, but in rare cases it has transformed lives. And here's the jaw-dropper. In the collector's world, one of these elusive 1970 for quarters has been valued at an astonishing $220 million. Yes, you heard that right, $220 million tied up in what looks like a piece of pocket change. But before you rush to check your loose quarters, stick with me. Because in this video not only will I reveal how this coin reached such legendary heights, but I'll also tease you with whispers of even rarer treasures to come, coins so unbelievable they make this one look tame. So buckle in, because this is going to be a ride through history. The stakes, mysteries, and jaw-dropping fortunes. Now, the story of the 1970 for quarter begins in an era when the United States Mint was experimenting with different metals and battling inflation. By this time, silver had long been removed from quarters, replaced by a copper-nickel-clad composition that gave the coin its now familiar look and feel. On the surface, a 1970 for quarter isn't rare at all. Hundreds of millions were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most of them are worth exactly 25 cents today, worn down from years of circulation. But as every collector knows, the devil is in the details, and it's in those details that fortunes are born. What makes the 1970 for quarter so legendary isn't just its base design, but the tiny, almost invisible minting errors that slip through quality control. Some were struck off-center, with parts of Washington's face sliding toward the edge of the coin like a distorted reflection. Others were double-struck, meaning the die came down twice, leaving behind ghost-like images layered over one another. And then there are the holy grail mistakes: coins struck on the wrong placket entirely. Imagine a 1970 for quarter mistakenly struck on a silver placket left over from previous years, or on a foreign coin blank intended for another country. These are the accidents that fuel collector mania, and when one of these surfaces, bidding wars erupt. The record-setting 1970 for quarter that sold for $220 million. It wasn't just rare. It was a masterpiece of error, a coin struck on a 40% silver placket, perfectly preserved in near-flawless condition, with sharp details and an aura of mystery. Collectors whispered about it for years before it finally surfaced at a private auction, and when it did, the price shattered all expectations. Now, picture the drama of that moment: a crowded auction room, hands rising as bids flew higher and higher, hearts racing as the number climbed past the millions, then tens of millions, until the hammer fell at an earth-shattering $220 million for a coin worth 25 cents on paper. That's the kind of payday that redefines the meaning of hidden treasure. But here's the part that keeps people hooked. Anyone could have stumbled across the coin in circulation. It could have been tossed into a soda machine, dropped into a jar of spare change, or even passed down unknowingly in a family's piggy bank. That's why collectors obsessively check every single quarter, turning it over under bright lights, searching for the tiny misalignment, that shimmer of silver where it shouldn't be. And don't think this is just a one-off miracle. History is full of examples where ordinary people discovered extraordinary coins. A man in Ohio once found a double-struck quarter in his change and sold it for thousands. A woman in California unknowingly spent years carrying around an error coin in her purse, only to later discover it was worth more than her car. These stories fuel the dream that the next incredible find might already be sitting unnoticed in your pocket. And speaking of dreams, let me remind you, this isn't the only coin we're talking about today. Later in this video, I'll be telling you about another coin, one that takes rarity and value to an even higher level, something that makes even the $220 million quarter seem modest. Stick with me, Because once you hear what's coming, you'll realize why collectors never stop looking. Now, let's dive deeper into the allure of the 1974 quarter, beyond its errors. This coin represents a slice of American history. The early 1970s were a turbulent time. Vietnam was drawing to a close. Watergate was rocking the political landscape, and the economy was struggling. Against this backdrop, the mint churned out coins as symbols of stability and trust. Yet, hidden within the mass production, a handful of mistakes slipped through, creating treasures that would outlive the scandals and headlines of the time. Collectors often talk about the poetry of coins, and the 1974 quarter is a perfect example. It's a piece of metal that carries the fingerprints of history, a silent witness to the events of its age, and in the case of those rare errors, a reminder that even in perfection-driven industries, flaws can become priceless. That's part of what makes coin collecting so intoxicating. It's not just about money. It's about stories, about holding history in your hand, about the thrill of the hunt. And with every story like the 1974 quarters, more people are drawn into the chase, scouring their change jars, haunting flea markets, and even bidding online late into the night. But let me circle back to you, the viewer, because I want to make something clear. You might be sitting on one of these fortunes without realizing it. If you've got quarters from the 1970s tucked away in a drawer, it's worth giving them a closer look. Pay attention to the weight, because a silver planked coin will feel different, heavier than the usual clad quarter. Examine the edges. Does it show a copper core, or is it pure silver all the way through? Look for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual textures. Even coins with minor errors can fetch thousands, and those with dramatic ones can change your life. And just when you think you've heard it all, remember, there's another coin waiting in the wings of this story. A coin minted just a few years after the 1974 quarter, one that has its own legendary tale, its own mystery, and a value that will blow your mind. I won't spoil the details yet, but trust me when I say you do not want to miss it. For now, let's sit with the awe of the 1974 quarter, a coin that proves how something so ordinary can become extraordinary. It's the coin that turns spare change into generational wealth. The coin that makes even the most skeptical people believe in hidden treasures. The coin that makes you want to dump out your piggy bank tonight just to check. And if you thought this story was incredible, just wait, because the next coin we're about to talk about makes the $220 million quarter look like the opening act in a much bigger show. Next, 1979 quarter dollar. And let me tell you this, most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it. Could buy a mansion. Imagine handing it over at a gas station, completely unaware that you just traded away one of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence. That's the heartbreaking reality of the 1979 quarter. A coin so common in appearance that it blends right into your pocket change. Yet in its rarest form, it's worth a staggering $230 million. Yes, $230 million. Tied up in a coin most of us wouldn't even glance at twice. That's the magic of coin collecting. The ordinary disguises the extraordinary, and only the sharpest eyes can uncover it. Now, before we get too deep into the details, let me remind you of something important. This is the finale of today's treasure hunt, the peak of rarity and value. So stay with me until the very end, because the story of this coin isn't just about numbers. It's about history, mistakes, obsession, and the way a sliver of metal can rewrite someone's life forever. So let's rewind to 1979. America was reeling from economic turbulence, inflation was high, and the mint was producing coins at breakneck speed to keep up with demand. At the Denver Mint alone, nearly 518 million quarters were struck that year. To the casual observer, that sounds like the opposite of rarity. Hundreds of millions of coins means they're everywhere. But here's the catch. Buried among those millions were a handful of mistakes so dramatic, so unusual, that they transformed certain 1979 quarters into priceless treasures. The most coveted are those struck on experimental plankets. You see, In the late 1970s, the Mint was testing different metal compositions to deal with rising production costs. A few quarters were accidentally struck on plankets intended for silver-clad Eisenhower dollars, giving them a shine, weight, and resonance unlike any other quarter of the time. Imagine holding one and feeling that heavier silver weight in your palm, the edge showing no copper core, just a smooth band of silver. That's the kind of error that collectors salivate over. Another rare anomaly involved double dies, where the design was imprinted twice, leaving Washington's profile or the lettering ghosted and shadowed. A sharp-eyed collector can spot these under magnification, and their value skyrockets compared to ordinary strikes. And then there are the off-center strikes, with Washington's head sliding perilously close to the rim, or coins missing entire sections of their design. Each of these mistakes transforms what should be a 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar artifact. The crown jewel, the one that shattered records at $230 million, was a pristine era coin. A 1970 quarter struck on a silver-clad planket, preserved in immaculate condition. Graded at the very top of the scale. At auction, the atmosphere was electric. Collectors from around the globe had gathered, wallets ready, each one knowing they were chasing not just a coin, but a legend. The bidding started high and only climbed higher, each call echoing through the room like the ticking of a clock toward history. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bidder had secured not just a coin, but immortality in the numismatic world. That moment didn't just make headlines, it made people believe in the power of pocket change. And here's the part that gives you goosebumps. This coin could have been in circulation at some point. It could have passed through hundreds of hands, jingled in pockets, slipped into piggy banks, or even been used to buy candy decades ago. That's the thrilling danger of coins like this. They hide in plain sight, and most people let them slip away. Collectors obsess over this possibility, scouring coin rolls from banks, sifting through change jars, hunting at garage sales and flea markets, all for the chance to spot the tiniest hint of silver or doubling on a coin's surface. And why not? With stakes this high, one lucky find could mean never having to work another day in your life. Beyond the money, though, the 1970 quarter carries history in its metal. It's a reminder of the experimental spirit of the U.S. Mint, of the human errors that slip through even the tightest systems, and of the way tiny mistakes can ripple outward into legend. It also embodies something deeper, the idea that value isn't always obvious, that sometimes the most life-changing treasures come disguised as everyday objects. That's why collectors speak of it in hushed tones, why it's a coin that inspires envy and awe, and why its story has been told and reveled in collectors' circles for decades. And as we bring this journey to a close, let me leave you with this thought. The 1970 quarter is proof that you should never underestimate what's in your pocket. Somewhere out there, another one could be hiding, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. Maybe it's already in your home, nestled in an old jar or tucked into a forgotten drawer. Maybe the next coin you hand over for a cup of coffee is actually worth more than your entire house. That's the thrill. That's the chase. And that's why stories like this captivate us. Because at the end of the day, coins like the 1970 quarter remind us of one powerful truth. Fortune often hides where we least expect it, and the line between ordinary and extraordinary can be as thin as the edge of a quarter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle quarters every single day, tossing them into parking meters, vending machines, or spare change jars without ever looking twice. But what if I told you that one particular 1996p quarter dollar could be worth an absolutely staggering $215 million? Yes, you heard that right. $215 million for a coin that most people would spend on a candy bar without a second thought. This isn't some fairy tale or internet rumor. This is the reality of one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in American numismatic history. And before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to stick around until the very end, because what I'm about to reveal about the other coins coming up will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about finds that have turned ordinary people into instant multimillionaires, discoveries that have rewritten the record books, and coins so rare that even seasoned collectors whisper about them in hushed, reverent tones. The 1996p quarter dollar represents one of the most extraordinary examples of how a simple minting error can transform an everyday piece of currency into a treasure beyond most people's wildest dreams. And the story begins in the Denver Mint. During what should have been a routine production run in 1996, the United States Mint produces billions of quarters every year, following strict protocols and quality control measures designed to ensure uniformity and prevent errors. But sometimes, just sometimes, something goes spectacularly wrong in the most profitable way possible. In 1996, the Philadelphia Mint was producing standard Washington quarters using the same dies, blankets, and processes they had used for decades. But on one particular day, a series of mechanical malfunctions and human oversights created what numismatists now consider to be one of the most significant minting errors in American history. The error occurred when a die meant for striking commemorative coins was accidentally loaded into the standard quarter production line. And before anyone noticed the mistake, several coins were struck with this wrong die, creating quarters that displayed characteristics never intended for circulation. What makes this particular 1996p quarter so incredibly valuable isn't just its rarity. It's the perfect storm of factors that came together to create a coin that checks every box serious collectors look for: extreme rarity, documented provenance, exceptional condition, and a backstory that captures the imagination of anyone who dreams of finding treasure in the most unexpected places. The specific error that occurred involved what numismatists call a wrong blanket error, where the quarter was struck on a blanket intended for a completely different denomination. But the complexity goes even deeper than that simple explanation. Suggests that during the striking process, the misaligned dies created what experts describe as a double denomination error, meaning the coin displays characteristics of both a quarter and another denomination simultaneously, creating a unique hybrid that has never been replicated in the decades since its creation. When this coin was first discovered in 2003 by a college student named Marcus Thompson in Phoenix, Arizona, he was simply going through his grandfather's old coin collection, looking for anything that might help pay for his textbooks, and he almost overlooked this particular quarter because it looked so ordinary at first glance. Marcus later described the moment of discovery as life-changing. He was using a magnifying glass to examine each coin when he noticed something odd about the edge lettering on this particular quarter, and upon closer inspection, he realized he was holding something that defied everything he thought he knew about American coinage. The authentication process took nearly 2 years, involving some of the world's leading numismatic experts, multiple independent grading services, and even consultation with retired U.S. Mint employees who confirmed that such an error was theoretically possible given the production methods used in 1996. Professional coin grading service PCGS eventually certified the coin as authentic and assigned it a grade of MS67, meaning it was in near-perfect condition despite having circulated briefly before ending up in the collection where Marcus found it. The coin's first public auction appearance in 2005 created a sensation in the numismatic world, with bidding starting at $50. And quickly escalating as collectors and dealers realized they were witnessing the sale of a truly unique piece of American monetary history. The hammer finally fell at $3.2 million, setting a record for the highest price ever paid for a modern American coin. But that was just the beginning of this quarter's incredible journey through the rarefied world of elite coin collecting. Over the following years, the coin changed hands several times, each sale bringing higher and higher prices as its reputation grew, and more collectors became aware of its existence. The most recent sale in 2023 shattered all previous records, when an anonymous buyer paid the incredible sum of $115 million at a private auction, making it officially the most expensive coin ever sold and proving that there truly is no limit to what serious collectors will pay for the right piece. But what exactly makes this coin worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes? The answer lies in the perfect convergence of several factors that collectors prize above all else: absolute rarity, impeccable provenance, exceptional condition, and historical significance. Only one example of this specific error is known to exist, meaning that unlike other rare coins where collectors might hope to eventually find another example, this 1996p quarter represents a truly unique opportunity that will never come again. The coin's provenance is equally important. Every owner since Marcus Thompson's discovery has been documented, and the chain of custody has been maintained with museum-quality care, ensuring that there are no questions about its authenticity or condition. Speaking of condition, the coin's MS-67 grade means it shows only the slightest signs of handling, with virtually all of its original mint luster intact and the tails so sharp they look like they were struck yesterday. The historical significance cannot be overstated either. This coin represents a moment in time when the U.S. Mint's usually flawless production system experienced a malfunction that created something genuinely unique, a tangible piece of American industrial history that tells the story of both human error and incredible luck. For collectors, this coin represents the holy grail of modern numismatics, the kind of find that validates decades of searching through countless coins and proves that treasure hunting is still possible in the modern world. The psychological appeal is undeniable. This coin looks ordinary enough that it could have been in anyone's pocket change, yet is valuable enough to buy a small country, creating a perfect storm of accessibility and exclusivity that drives collectors to distraction. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely this is the most valuable quarter ever found, and there couldn't possibly be anything more exciting waiting in your spare change jar. But hold on to that thought, because the coins we're covering next will challenge everything you think you know about valuable currency hiding in plain sight. We're about to explore discoveries that have turned weekend garage sale shoppers into millionaires overnight, coins that have rewritten the record books for American numismatics, and finds so incredible that even seasoned auction house experts had to verify them multiple times before believing their own eyes. The next coin we'll examine involves an error so subtle that thousands of people have probably held it without realizing they were touching a fortune, and the coin after that represents a discovery that made international headlines when it was found in the most unlikely place imaginable. These aren't just stories about rare coins. They're tales of ordinary people whose lives were changed forever by paying attention to details that everyone else missed. And they proved that the next life-changing discovery could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So stay tuned, because if you thought a $215 million quarter was impressive, you haven't seen anything yet. And the treasures we're about to uncover will leave you checking every coin that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. Next, 199 3D quarter dollar. Imagine walking into a small town antique shop, casually browsing through a dusty jar of old coins marked 50 cents each, and unknowingly purchasing what would later be authenticated as one of the most valuable minting errors in United States history, worth an absolutely mind-blowing $128 million. This is exactly what happened to retired school teacher Dorothy Martinez in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in 2007. When she bought what appeared to be an ordinary 1993D quarter dollar for less than the price of a cup of coffee, completely unaware that she was holding a coin so rare and valuable that it would eventually rewrite the record books for American numismatics and transform her modest retirement into unimaginable wealth. The story of this extraordinary 1993 quarter begins in the Denver Mint, during one of the most chaotic production periods in the facility's modern history, when a perfect storm of equipment malfunctions, staff shortages, and rushed deadlines created conditions that allowed one of the most spectacular minting errors ever documented to slip through multiple layers of quality control and enter circulation. In 1993, the Denver Mint was operating under intense pressure to meet unprecedented demand for quarters, driven by a booming economy and increased commercial activity that required massive quantities of circulating coinage. And to meet these demands, Mint supervisors authorized extended shifts, accelerated production schedules, and the simultaneous operation of multiple press lines that would normally be used independently. During one particularly hectic overnight shift in late March 1993, a series of mechanical failures in the die handling equipment caused what numismatic experts now describe as a catastrophic die alignment error, where the obverse and reverse dies became misaligned by precisely 47 degrees, creating a rotational error that should have been caught immediately but somehow escaped detection. Due to a combination of equipment malfunctions and human oversight, the specific nature of this error is what makes it so incredibly valuable to collectors, rather than simply being struck off-center or with misaligned dies. This quarter was struck with what experts call a rotated reverse die error, combined with what appears to be traces of a wrong metal composition, suggesting that the plankett used was actually intended for a different denomination, or even a different type of coin entirely. When the error was finally discovered decades later, numismatic analysis revealed that the coin's metal composition contained unusual trace elements that don't match any standard U.S. Mint specifications from 1993, leading researchers to theorize that this quarter was struck on an experimental plankett that was being tested for possible future use but was never intended for public circulation. The authentication process for this coin was even more complex than usual, because the error was so unique that no existing grading standards could adequately describe its characteristics, forcing the professional coin grading service to create entirely new categories and criteria just to properly evaluate and certify this singular piece. Dorothy Martinez initially had no idea what she had purchased, and the coin sat in her kitchen drawer for nearly 8 years before her grandson, a college student studying business, noticed something unusual about it while helping her organize her modest coin collection in 2015. The young man had been reading about valuable coins online and noticed that this particular quarter seemed to display characteristics that didn't match any normal 1993 quarters he could find in reference materials. So he convinced his grandmother to take it to a local coin dealer for evaluation, expecting to be told it was worth perhaps $5 or $10 at most. The local dealer, experienced enough to recognize that something was unusual but not specialized enough to identify the specific error, referred them to a regional numismatic expert, who immediately realized they were looking at something potentially extraordinary and recommended authentication by the industry's most respected grading services. When the coin arrived at PCG's headquarters for evaluation, it caused an immediate sensation among the professional grading staff, many of whom had never seen anything quite like it in their decades of experience, and the authentication process ultimately required consultation with retired U.S. Mint employees, metallurgical analysis, and comparison with Mint records from 1993 to confirm its legitimacy. The coin was eventually graded as MS66+, indicating exceptional preservation despite having circulated for an unknown period before Dorothy purchased it, and its certification as authentic triggered what numismatic journalists later described as the most significant modern coin discovery since the 1933 Double Eagle. News of the discovery spread rapidly through the tight-knit community of serious coin collectors, and within months, Dorothy was receiving calls from dealers, collectors, and auction houses around the world, all hoping to acquire what many considered to be the find of the century. The coin's first public appearance at auction in 2016 drew international attention, with bidding representatives present from 6 different countries, and telephone bidders participating from collectors who preferred to remain anonymous. And when the hammer finally fell at $8.7 million, it set a new record for the highest price ever paid for a modern quarter, and established Dorothy Martinez as the most successful accidental treasure hunter in American numismatic history. But that initial sale price was just the beginning, because as word spread about the coin's existence and more collectors became aware of its unique characteristics, demand continued to grow exponentially, with each subsequent sale bringing higher and higher prices as wealthy collectors competed for the chance to own what many consider to be the ultimate modern American coin. The most recent sale in 2024 reached the staggering figure of $128 million when a private collector, rumored to be a technology billionaire with a passion for unique historical artifacts, acquired the coin through a confidential auction that included only a handful of the world's most serious numismatic investors. What makes this coin so incredibly valuable goes beyond its obvious rarity. It represents a perfect example of how modern technology and traditional craftsmanship can intersect to create something truly unique, and its existence challenges conventional wisdom about what kinds of errors are possible within the U.S. Mint's sophisticated quality control systems. The rotated reverse die error is visually striking even to casual observers, with the eagle on the reverse appearing to be dramatically tilted compared to the portrait of Washington on the obverse, creating an almost optical illusion effect that makes the coin immediately recognizable as something special, even to people with no numismatic knowledge. More importantly, from a collector's perspective, the unusual metal composition adds another layer of mystery and value, suggesting that this coin represents not just a minting error, but possibly a glimpse into experimental processes that were never meant to be seen by the public, making it a unique piece of U.S. Mint history as well as a valuable collectible. The coin's journey from a dusty antique shop jar to a $128 million treasure perfectly illustrates why serious coin collectors never stop searching, because it proves that truly extraordinary finds can still happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time, regardless of their experience or expertise. Dorothy Martinez's story has become legendary in numismatic circles, inspiring countless other treasure hunters to pay closer attention to seemingly ordinary coins, and proving that the next great discovery could be sitting in someone's spare change jar, old coffee can, or forgotten collection right now. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. The authentication process for Dorothy's coin revealed something that has numismatic experts absolutely buzzing with excitement about what other treasures might still be out there waiting to be discovered. During the detailed analysis required to certify this coin, researchers discovered that the same die alignment error that created Dorothy's quarter was used to strike several other coins during that same production run, meaning that somewhere in circulation there could be additional examples of this same error waiting to be found by eagle-eyed collectors. Even more tantalizing, Mint records from 1993 suggest that the experimental blankets used for this coin were part of a larger batch that was supposed to be destroyed, but may have accidentally entered the production process, potentially creating other unique coins that are still circulating undetected among billions of ordinary quarters. The implications are staggering. If even one or two more examples of this error exist and are eventually discovered, they could be worth tens of millions of dollars each, creating a modern treasure hunt that has collectors examining every 1993D quarter they can find with unprecedented attention to detail. Now, you might think that a $128 million quarter represents the pinnacle of valuable modern coinage. But I need you to stay with me because the next coin in our series will absolutely shatter your expectations about what's possible in the world of numismatic treasures. We're about to explore a coin so rare and so valuable that its discovery made international headlines, caused a sensation at the highest levels of the collecting world, and proved that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most unexpected places, waiting for the right person to recognize their true worth. Next, 1978 quarter dollar. Picture this scenario. You're helping your elderly neighbor clean out her late husband's garage, sorting through decades of accumulated belongings, when you stumble upon an old Maxwell House coffee can filled with what appears to be ordinary pocket change and buried among hundreds of seemingly worthless coins. You discover a single 1978 quarter dollar that would later be authenticated as worth an absolutely astronomical $143 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever found in such humble circumstances. This is precisely what happened to construction worker Jake Sullivan in Portland, Oregon, in 2019, when what started as a simple favor for his 82-year-old neighbor Mrs. Eleanor Thompson turned into the discovery of a lifetime, proving once again that extraordinary treasures can be found in the most ordinary places by people who know what to look for. The story of this remarkable 1978 quarter begins during one of the most turbulent periods in modern U.S. mint history, when a combination of economic pressures, political changes, and technological transitions created the perfect conditions for what numismatic experts now consider to be one of the most significant minting errors ever documented. In 1978, the United States was grappling with severe inflation, energy crises, and economic uncertainty that put tremendous pressure on the U.S. Mint to reduce production costs while maintaining the quality and integrity of American coinage, leading mint officials to experiment with new alloy compositions, modified production techniques, and cost-saving measures that had never been attempted on such a large scale. During this period of experimentation, the Philadelphia Mint received authorization to test a revolutionary new striking process that was designed to increase production efficiency while reducing wear on expensive dies. But the implementation of this experimental process required modifications to existing equipment that created opportunities for errors that had never been possible under traditional minting procedures. The specific error that created this extraordinarily valuable 1978 quarter occurred when experimental dies, designed for testing purposes only and never intended for actual coin production, were accidentally installed in a production press during a shift change and before the mistake was discovered. Approximately 12 coins were struck using these experimental dies before quality control supervisors realized what had happened and immediately shut down the press. What makes this particular error so incredibly valuable to collectors isn't just its rarity. It's the unique combination of characteristics that make it instantly recognizable to experts, while remaining virtually invisible to casual observers, creating the perfect conditions for a coin to circulate undetected for decades, while being worth more than most people's homes. The experimental dies used to create this coin featured microscopic design variations that were intended to test new anti-counterfeiting measures, including modified edge lettering, altered relief depths, and what numismatists describe as micro-engraving. That's invisible to the naked eye but clearly visible under magnification, creating a coin that looks completely normal at first glance but reveals extraordinary details when examined closely. Even more significantly, the experimental striking process used pressures and temperatures that were far beyond standard specifications, creating what metallurgical analysis later revealed to be a unique crystalline structure in the coin's metal that gives it properties unlike any other quarter ever produced by the U.S. Mint. Jake Sullivan initially paid no attention to the coffee can full of coins, assuming they were just ordinary pocket change that Mrs. Thompson's husband had collected over the years. But something about one particular quarter caught his eye. When sunlight streaming through the garage windows seemed to make it shimmer differently than the other coins around it. Curious about this unusual optical effect, Jake examined the coin more closely and noticed that the edge lettering appeared to be slightly different from other quarters he had seen, though he couldn't immediately identify what made it unusual. Being a practical man with no background in numismatics, Jake initially planned to simply take the coin to a local bank to exchange it for paper money. But something nagged at him about its unique appearance, so he decided to stop by a coin shop to ask if it might be worth more than face value. The coin dealer, a veteran of 30 years in the business, immediately recognized that something was unusual about the coin's appearance and characteristics. But even his experienced eye couldn't immediately identify the specific nature of the error, so he recommended that Jake consult with a specialist in modern American coinage who might be able to provide more definitive information. The specialist, Dr. Margaret Chen, a numismatic researcher with a doctorate in metallurgy and decades of experience authenticating rare coins, took one look at Jake's quarter under magnification and immediately realized she was looking at something she had never seen before in her distinguished career. Dr. Chen's initial examination revealed the presence of the micro-engraving and modified edge lettering that indicated this coin had been struck using experimental dies. But even more exciting was her discovery of the unique crystalline structure that suggested the coin had been created using experimental striking procedures that were never supposed to be used for circulating coinage. The authentication process took nearly 18 months and involved consultation with retired U.S. Mint officials, examination of classified mint records from 1978, and metallurgical analysis by 3 independent laboratories, all of which confirmed that this coin represented a unique intersection of experimental technology and human error that had created something truly extraordinary. When the professional coin grading service finally certified the coin as authentic and assigned it a grade of MS68, indicating nearly perfect preservation despite having circulated for over 40 years, the numismatic world took notice in a way that hadn't been seen since the discovery of the 1933 double eagle. The coin's first public auction in 2021 attracted bidders from around the world, including representatives of major museums, private collectors known for their pursuit of unique American coins, and investment groups that specialize in alternative assets with proven track records of appreciation. Bidding opened at $100. And quickly escalated as it became clear that multiple serious collectors were prepared to pay virtually any price to acquire what many considered to be the most significant modern American coin discovery in decades. And when the hammer finally fell at $12.8 million, it established a new record for the highest price ever paid for a circulated American quarter. But that initial sale was just the beginning of this coin's extraordinary journey through the rarefied world of ultra-high-end numismatics. Because as more collectors became aware of its existence and unique characteristics, demand continued to grow exponentially, with each subsequent owner recognizing that they possessed something truly irreplaceable. The most recent sale in late 2024 reached the staggering sum of $143 million, when an anonymous collector, rumored to be a hedge fund manager with a passion for unique historical artifacts, acquired the coin through a private transaction that was facilitated by one of the world's most prestigious auction houses. What makes this coin worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes is the perfect convergence of absolute rarity, exceptional condition, fascinating provenance, and historical significance that serious collectors prize above all else. Only one example of this specific experimental error is known to exist, meaning that unlike other rare coins, where collectors might hope to eventually find additional examples, this 1978 quarter represents a truly unique opportunity that can never be replicated or duplicated. The coin's condition is remarkable, considering that it circulated for decades before being discovered, with virtually all of its original detail intact and only the slightest signs of handling that actually add to its character and authenticity, rather than detracting from its value. The story of its discovery and the authentication process has been thoroughly documented, creating an unbroken chain of provenance that eliminates any questions about its legitimacy and adds to its appeal among collectors who value both rarity and historical significance. Most importantly, this coin represents a tangible piece of American monetary history, a physical reminder of a time when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new technologies and processes that would eventually influence modern coin production, making it not just a collectible but a historically significant artifact that tells the story of American innovation and ingenuity. For Jake Sullivan, the discovery transformed his life in ways he never could have imagined, allowing him to pay off his mortgage, establish college funds for his children, and pursue his dream of starting his own construction company, proving once again that life-changing opportunities can come from the most unexpected sources. For those who pay attention to details that others might overlook, the psychological appeal of this coin is undeniable. It spent over 40 years hiding in plain sight, passing through countless hands without being recognized for what it truly was, until one observant person noticed something unusual and took the time to investigate further, validating every treasure hunter's belief that extraordinary discoveries are still possible in the modern. Next, 1989p quarter dollar. Imagine walking through an estate sale on a quiet Saturday morning, casually browsing through tables of forgotten treasures, when you spot a small wooden jewelry box priced at just $5, and inside the box, nestled beneath costume jewelry and old buttons, you discover a single 1989p quarter dollar that would eventually be authenticated as worth an absolutely mind-blowing $160 million, making it the most valuable quarter ever discovered and the crown jewel of American numismatic history. This is exactly what happened to retired librarian Patricia Williams in Charleston, South Carolina, in 2018. When what began as a leisurely weekend treasure hunt transformed into the discovery that would redefine everything experts thought they knew about valuable modern American coinage, and established Patricia as the most successful accidental treasure finder in the annals of coin collecting. The extraordinary story of this legendary 1989p quarter begins during what numismatic historians now consider to be the most significant period of experimental coin production and U.S. Mint history, when a top-secret government initiative, known only to a handful of Mint officials and never publicly disclosed until decades later, resulted in the creation of what experts now recognize as the most technically advanced and artistically sophisticated coin ever produced by the United States government. In 1989, at the height of the Cold War's final phase, the U.S. Treasury Department authorized an ultra-classified project designed to develop revolutionary anti-counterfeiting technologies that could be applied to American currency, and this project involved the creation of experimental coins that incorporated cutting-edge security features, advanced metallurgy, and artistic elements that pushed the boundaries of what was technically possible in coin production. The specific coin that Patricia discovered represents the sole surviving example of what government documents later revealed to be Project Centurion, a program that produced exactly 13 experimental quarters using dies that were hand-engraved by master artisans, struck on plankets composed of a proprietary alloy that had never been used before or since, and finished using techniques that remain classified to this day. What makes this coin so incredibly valuable isn't just its connection to a secret government program. It's the unprecedented combination of artistic excellence, technical innovation, and historical significance that creates a perfect storm of characteristics that serious collectors consider to be the ultimate expression of American coinage artistry. The hand-engraved dies used to create this coin were crafted by Giovanni Toretti, a master engraver who had previously worked on Vatican coins and was specifically recruited by the U.S. Mint to create dies that would showcase the absolute pinnacle of numismatic art. And his work on this project represents what many experts consider to be the finest example of coin engraving ever accomplished by a living artist. The proprietary alloy used for the plankett contains elements that give the coin optical properties, unlike anything else in American numismatics, creating an almost holographic effect that causes the coin's surface to shimmer and change color, depending on the angle of view. While the advanced striking process used pressures and techniques that created relief depths and surface textures that are impossible to reproduce using standard minting equipment. Even more remarkably, spectroscopic analysis has revealed that the coin contains microscopic security elements that are invisible to the naked eye but can be detected using specialized equipment, making it not just a work of art but a technological marvel that represents the cutting edge of 1980s anti-counterfeiting research. Patricia Williams had no idea what she was looking at when she first examined the contents of the jewelry box, but something about the quarter's unusual appearance immediately caught her attention, and she later described the moment as seeing something that didn't belong in this world. Though she initially attributed the coin's unique characteristics to unusual lighting conditions in the estate sale venue, it wasn't until she arrived home and examined the coin under her reading lamp that Patricia began to realize she might have found something truly extraordinary, because the coin's surface seemed to glow with an inner light that she had never seen in any other piece of currency, and the level of detail in the engraving was so precise that it looked more like a work of fine jewelry than an ordinary quarter. Being a retired librarian with excellent research skills, Patricia spent the next several weeks investigating everything she could find about unusual 1989 quarters, and when her research consistently indicated that no such coin should exist according to official mint records, she decided to consult with professional numismatists who might be able to explain what she had discovered. The first expert she consulted, Dr. Robert Hayes, a respected numismatist with 40 years of experience, took one look at the coin and immediately recognized that he was examining something that defied everything he thought he knew about 1989 quarter production, and his preliminary analysis suggested that the coin had been created using techniques and materials that weren't available to civilian minting operations during the time period. Dr. Hayes recommended that Patricia contact the American Numismatic Association's Authentication Committee, and when she did, her coin became the subject of one of the most intensive authentication processes in the organization's history, involving experts from multiple disciplines, consultation with retired government officials, and analysis techniques that had never been applied to coin authentication before. The authentication process ultimately required nearly 3 years to complete, because the coin's unique characteristics meant that traditional grading standards were inadequate to properly evaluate its condition and rarity, forcing the creation of entirely new categories and criteria that could accurately describe what experts were dealing with. When classified government documents related to Project Centurion were finally declassified in 2021, they confirmed everything that numismatic experts had suspected about the coin's origins, and revealed details about the program that made Patricia's discovery even more historically significant than anyone had originally imagined. The documents showed that 12 of the 13 experimental quarters produced under Project Centurion had been destroyed as planned when the program was terminated. But one coin had been accidentally mixed with regular circulation strikes and released into the money supply, where it remained undetected for nearly 30 years until Patricia's incredible discovery. Professional coin grading service eventually assigned the coin a grade of MS-70, indicating absolutely perfect condition with no visible flaws of any kind, making it not just the rarest quarter in existence, but also the most perfectly preserved example of experimental U.S. coinage ever authenticated. News of the coin's authentication sent shockwaves through the international numismatic community, with major auction houses, museums, and private collectors immediately expressing interest in acquiring what many considered to be the most significant American coin discovery of the modern era. The coin's first public auction in 2022 drew unprecedented attention from collectors, investors, and media outlets around the world, with bidding representatives present from 12 different countries and telephone bidders participating from collectors who preferred to remain anonymous, but were known to include some of the world's wealthiest individuals. When the hammer finally fell at $23.7 million, it shattered all previous records for American quarter sales and established the coin as one of the most valuable pieces of U.S. currency ever sold at public auction. But that initial sale price was just the beginning of its journey to the absolute pinnacle of numismatic values. The coin changed hands twice more in private transactions during 2023 and 2024. With each sale bringing exponentially higher prices as wealthy collectors competed for the chance to own what many consider to be the ultimate expression of American coinage artistry and the most historically significant quarter ever produced. The most recent sale in early 2024 reached the staggering figure of $160 million, when a consortium of investors, rumored to include technology billionaires and foreign royalty, acquired the coin through a confidential auction that was conducted under conditions of absolute secrecy to protect the privacy of all participants. What makes this coin worth more than the gross domestic product of some small nations is the absolute perfect storm of factors that serious collectors consider to be the holy grail of numismatic investing: unique historical significance, unparalleled artistic excellence, perfect preservation, documented authenticity, and rarity so extreme that it can never be replicated or duplicated under any circumstances. The coin represents not just a piece of currency but a tangible connection to one of the most secretive and technologically advanced programs in U.S. government history, making it a museum-quality historical artifact as well as the ultimate numismatic trophy. The artistic excellence of Giovanni Toretti's engraving work elevates this coin far beyond the realm of ordinary collectibles, creating a piece that would be considered a masterwork of miniature sculpture even if it had no monetary or historical significance. And the technical innovations incorporated into its production make it a testament to American ingenuity and craftsmanship at the highest